Hi, it's Kevin Ann at Eagle Strong Voice again. I've been asked to comment on what I think of the present Pope, so-called Pope, Bishop of Rome, Jorge Bergoglio, whatever you want to call him, Francis the First. The strategically chosen name, Francis, to get us all thinking of St. Francis of Assisi, the saintly guy, right? The grandfatherly spin doctor who's now in there in Rome trying to make us think that because there's a new face on the edifice has changed. Okay, let's look at the guy first of all. First Jesuit appointed pope rather, not elected, appointed pope, the first Jesuit in history. Should tell you something. If you know anything about the Society of, quote, Jesus, Society of Jesus, Jesuits set up in the 16th century to counter the Reformation, to destroy, and this is their vow, to destroy any opponent of the Pope by any means necessary. Murder, subterfuge, anything to destroy papal enemies. Now, even if that wasn't true, even if he wasn't a Jesuit, let's look at his record. Jorge Bergoglio went from being a priest in Argentina to the head of the Argentine church in about 14 years. One of the reasons he did that, one of the ways he did it, was through the obtaining of Exocet missiles from the Argentine dictatorship during the Falklands War in 1982. Where his buddy Roberto Calvi, remember the guy who ended up hanging under Blackfriars Bridge, the Vatican banker, probably knocked off by MI6 in England because they discovered that it was Calvi who funded, along with Jorge Bergoglio, the Pope now, the two of them funded the obtaining of Exocet missiles for the Argentine military that sunk several British warships in that war. But that wasn't it. That was probably the least of his offenses, actually. He turned a blind eye to the arrest of many of even his own clergy who were tortured and killed in Argentine prisons. One of the over 30,000 people who disappeared at the hands of that regime, who he acted as a frontman for, a public relations guy trying to convince the world the dictatorship was okay. But one of the other things he did is an old practice in the Roman Catholic Church of grabbing the children of political prisoners and then trafficking them for a lot of money into the homes of Catholic families where they were brainwashed and raised in a lot of ways similar to what happened in the Indian boarding schools. In Spain alone, under Franco, over 600,000 children were trafficked in this way by the Catholic Church. And Bergoglio was right in the thick of it in Argentina, arranging the same kind of thing. So this man is guilty of war crimes. Now, on top of all of that is the simple fact that he's now in as head of the oldest and most murderous corporation on the planet, whose stated policy, called Crimen Solicitanis, is still to silence child rape within the Catholic Church. Every priest and bishop is obligated under this policy to silence the victims of child rape when it happens, to not tell the police. Now, that in itself is not only a criminal act, but it's a obstruction of justice and an act of treason, because it's telling citizens of their own countries to subvert the laws and the policing in their own nations at the behest of the Roman Catholic Church for their own interests. Now, Bergoglio reaffirmed that policy on July 11th when he said that leakage of information from the Vatican is criminalized. You can go to jail if you're an honest Catholic priest and you report child rape. You can end up in a Vatican prison. That's the action of the so-called progressive Jorge Bergoglio. Now, in God's name, why is this man being held up as some kind of icon, some kind of reformer? Well, he's using a simple, tried and true method of telling people what they need to hear. He does that very effectively. He says, well, no, homosexuality is not really an issue for him. He's going to include the Vatican law, include human rights provisions, and will do his best to reform practices in the church, blah, 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 blah. We all know what's behind that. It's a lot of words, because he's not, as we've seen, he's re-entrenched Vatican policies about the subversion of the law and the covering up of child rape. So in God's name, why would anyone think this guy's a reformer? He's being what people need to see, which is what any effective spin doctrine does. Now, behind him, of course, are the Jesuits, and this is a very dangerous organization. I really think it's important for me to clarify something, because part of the smear operation against me is, well, get this, Kevin Anand wears black all the time, therefore he's got to be a Jesuit agent. A woman, Karen Hudis, who is a world banker, apparently, who went public with information interesting information actually, about the Chinese and the Vatican getting together to control world currency. She came out in an interview and said that, well, Kevin's doing the job of the Jesuits because he went after the Pope, and the Jesuits really wanted that Pope Ratzinger out of there. First of all, the illusion that the Jesuits and the Catholic Church are somehow at odds, that they're different organizations. Yeah, quite definitely the Jesuits wanted their guy in, but the indictment of Joseph Ratzinger, and now our attempted indictment of not only Bergoglio, but the Jesuits themselves, how does that indicate that I'm working for them? I mean, it's this kind of twisted logic designed to get people to doubt the whistleblower. And I'm sorry Ms. Hewitt has felt the need to do this. I don't know why she's doing it, who might be pulling her string. That's all supposition. I don't really care. I'm not entering into this mutual name-calling. What we need to do is to get to the source of what's going on. And the source of that is in Rome. Historically, the oldest corporation on the planet, the most murderous. It controls governments all around the world. It gets money from you taxpayers in over 120 countries through what's called the financial concordats, where taxpayers' money is funded directly to the Vatican Bank. You know, I mean, this is all going on as we speak, and Jorge Bergoglio is the main actor in this, the front man for the most murderous organization on the planet, an organization that we are disestablishing through our common law courts. We have legally and lawfully disestablished the Catholic Church as a transnational criminal body. You have the right to go in and occupy this church, seize its assets, arrest the known child raping priests, arrest the officials like Bergoglio who are protecting these child murderers. And that international law supports you in that. So we urge you to get on board with this and to strike at the heart. As any good military strategist knows, you strike at the heart with your maximum force. That heart is in Rome with its Jesuit Pope, who has no authority, who is now subject to immediate arrest under arrest warrants coming from the common law court. Get on board with us. Know your real enemy. Thank you.